These two remarkable women were from vastly different backgrounds. One a reigning queen and the granddaughter of emperors, the other a traveling writer, lecturer, and journalist raised on a dairy farm in Pennsylvania. They were brought together by most unlikely of circumstances, involving a Persian nobleman who had been exiled and held captive by the Ottoman government in the city of Akka. Formerly a prison city within the Ottoman Empire, Akka is now part of the State of Israel. In the late 1860s, from his prison cell in Akka, this prisoner penned letters to an array of world leaders, proclaiming in prophetic language a call for unity, justice, and peace built upon the foundation of the inherent oneness of humanity. He was no ordinary prisoner, born Mirza Hussein Ali Nuri. He was the founder of the Bahá'í Faith, known to his followers by the title Bahá'u'lláh. By a rather unlikely coincidence, among the rulers to whom he wrote were two grandparents of Queen Marie of Romania. From her father's side was her paternal grandmother Victoria, the Queen of the British Empire. From her mother's side was her maternal grandfather, Alexander II, the Emperor of Russia, the King of Poland, and the Grand Duke of Finland, known for his emancipation of Russia's serfs in 1861. Although we don't have written proof, it was reported that after reading a translation of the letter, Queen Victoria said, "If this is of God, it will endure. If not, it can do no harm." Endure it did. 57 years later, Queen Marie, Victoria's granddaughter, openly proclaimed her appreciation of the Bahá'í Faith in May 4, 1926 in an article which was syndicated in nearly 200 newspapers. "A woman brought me the other day a book. I spell it with a capital letter because it is a glorious book of love and goodness, strength and beauty. She gave it to me because she had learned I was in grief and sadness and wanted to help. She put it into my hands saying, 'You seem to live up to his teachings.' And when I opened the book I saw it was the word of Abdul-Baha, prophet of love and kindness, and of his father the great teacher of international goodwill and understanding of a religion which links all creeds. Their writings are a great cry toward peace, reaching beyond all limits of frontiers, above all dissension about rights and dogmas. It is a religion based upon the inner spirit of God, upon the great, not to be overcome verity that God is love, meaning just that. It teaches that all hatreds, intrigues, suspicions, evil words, all aggressive patriotism even, are outside the one essential law of God, and that special beliefs are but surface things, whereas the heart that beats with divine love knows no tribe nor race. It is a wondrous message that Baha'u'lláh and his son Abdul-Baha have given us. They have not set it up aggressively, knowing that the germ of eternal truth which lies at its core cannot but take root and spread. There is only one great verity in it, love, the mainspring of every energy, tolerance toward each other, desire of understanding each other, knowing each other, helping each other, forgiving each other. It is Christ's message taken up anew, in the same words almost, but adapted to the 1,000 years and more difference that lies between the year 1 and today. No man could fail to be better because of this book. I commend it to you all. If ever the name of Baha'u'lláh or Abdul-Baha comes to your attention, do not put their writings from you. Search out their books, and let their glorious, peace-bringing, love-creating words and lessons sink into your hearts as they have into mine. One's busy day may seem too full for religion, or one may have a religion that satisfies. But the teachings of these gentle, wise and kindly men are compatible with all religion, and with no religion. Seek them, and be the happier. The woman she mentioned who gave her a book was Martha Root. Here is a letter from Queen Marie to Martha Root, written after her public declaration of faith. I was deeply moved on reception of your letter. Indeed, a great light came to me with the message of Baha'u'lláh and Abdul-Baha. It came as all great messages come. At an hour of dire grief and inner conflict and distress, so the seeds sank deeply. My youngest daughter finds also great strength and comfort in the teachings of the beloved masters. We pass on the message from month to month, and all those we give it to see a light suddenly lighting before them, and much that was obscure and perplexing becomes simple, luminous and full of hope as never before. That my open letter was balm to those suffering for the cause is indeed a great happiness to me, and I take it as a sign that God accepted my humble tribute. The occasion given me to be able to express myself publicly was also His work, for indeed it was a chain of circumstances of which each link led me unwittingly one step further, till suddenly all was clear before my eyes and I understood why it had been. Thus does He lead us finally to our ultimate destiny. Some of those of my caste wonder at and disapprove my courage to step forward pronouncing words not habitual for crowned heads to pronounce, but I advance by an inner urge I cannot resist. With bowed head I recognize that I too am but an instrument in greater hands and rejoice in the knowledge. Little by little the veil is lifting, grief tore it in two. And grief was also a step leading me ever nearer truth, therefore do I not cry out against grief. May you and those beneath your guidance be blessed and upheld by the sacred strength of those gone before you. Martha Root's own illuminating recollection of her interaction with Queen Marie is given in one of her articles as follows: For 10 years Her Majesty and her daughter, Her Royal Highness Princess Elena, now Archduchess Anton, have read with interest each new book about the Bahá'í movement, as soon as it came from the press. Received in audience by Her Majesty in Pelisar Palace, Sinaya, in 1927, after the passing of His Majesty King Ferdinand, her husband, she graciously gave me an interview, speaking of the Bahá'í teachings about immortality. She had on her table and on the divan a number of Bahá'í books, for she had just been reading in each of them the teachings about life after death. She asked the writer to give her greeting to the friends in Iran and to the many American Baha'is, who she said had been so remarkably kind to her during her trip through the United States the year before. Meeting the Queen again on January 19, 1928, in the Royal Palace in Belgrade, where she and Her Royal Highness Princess Elena were guests of the Queen of Yugoslavia, and they had brought some of their Bahá'í books with them. The words that I shall remember longest of all that Her dear Majesty said were these: "The ultimate dream which we shall realize is that the Bahá'í channel of thought has such strength, it will serve little by little to become a light to all those searching for the real expression of truth." Then in the audience in Contraseni Palace, on February 16, 1934, when Her Majesty was told that the Romanian translation of Bahá'u'lláh and the New Era had just been published in Bucharest, she said she was so happy that her people were to have the blessing of reading this precious teaching. And now today, February 4, 1936, I have just had another audience with Her Majesty in Contraseni Palace, in Bucharest. Again Queen Marie of Romania received me cordially in her softly lighted library, for the hour was 6 o'clock. What a memorable visit it was. She also told me that when she was in London she had met a Bahá'í, Lady Blomfield, who had shown her the original message that Bahá'u'lláh had sent to her grandmother, Queen Victoria, in London. She asked the writer about the progress of the Bahá'í movement, especially in the Balkan countries. She spoke too of several Bahá'í books, The Depths of Ican, and especially of Gleanings from the Writings of Bahá'u'lláh, which she said was a wonderful book. To quote her own words, "Even doubters would find a powerful strength in it, if they would read it alone, and would give their souls time to expand." What follows is a significantly abridged and paraphrased version of Shoghi Effendi's tribute to Martha Root.
To Martha Root, that foremost example of Bahá'í travel teachers, must be awarded the title of leading ambassador of our faith. With steadfast resolve on her world journeys, covering a period of nearly 20 years, she traveled around the globe 4 times. She traveled 4 times to China and Japan and 3 times to India. She visited every major city in South America, even crossing the Andes in winter on a mule. All the while carrying the Bahá'í message to kings, queens, princes and princesses, presidents of republics, ministers and statesmen, publicists, professors, clergymen and poets, as well as a vast number of people in various walks of life. Martha Root delivered lectures in over 400 universities and colleges in both the East and the West, as well as to nearly 100 universities, colleges and schools in China. She had innumerable articles published in newspapers and magazines in practically every country she visited, placed countless books in private and state libraries. During her travels she supervised the translation and production of a large number of versions of Dr. Esselmont's book, Bahá'u'lláh and the New Era. Neither age nor ill health, neither the scarcity of literature which hampered her early efforts, nor the meager resources which imposed an added burden on her labors, neither the extremities of the climates to which she was exposed, nor the political disturbances which she encountered in the course of her journeys, could damp the zeal or deflect the purpose of this spiritually dynamic and saintly woman. Single-handed and, on more than one occasion, in extremely perilous circumstances, she continued to call, in clarion tones, men of diverse creeds, color and classes to the message of Bahá'u'lláh, until, while in spite of a deadly and painful disease, the onslaught of which she endured with heroic fortitude, she hastened homeward to help in the recently launched 7-year plan. On her way home she was stricken down, in far-off Honolulu. There, in that symbolic spot between the eastern and western hemispheres, in both of which she had labored so mightily, she died, on September 28, 1939, and brought to its close a life which may well be regarded as the fairest fruit as yet yielded by the formative age of the dispensation of Bahá'u'lláh. Of all the services rendered the cause by this star servant, the most superb and by far the most momentous has been the almost instantaneous response evoked in Queen Marie of Romania to the message which that ardent and audacious pioneer had carried to her during one of the darkest moments of the Queen's life, an hour of bitter need, perplexity and sorrow. It came, Queen Marie herself in a letter had testified, as all great messages come, at an hour of dire grief and inner conflict and distress, so the seed sank deeply. Upon her arrival in Bucharest, Martha Root sent Her Majesty a copy of Bahá'u'lláh and the New Era, with an accompanying note. The book so absorbed the Queen's attention that she continued reading it till 3 in the morning. That led, 2 days later, to the Queen's granting Martha Root an audience, on January 30, 1926, in Controseni Palace in Bucharest. In the course of which Her Majesty avowed her belief that these teachings are the solution for the world's problems. From that followed Queen Marie's publication, that same year on her own initiative, the first of 3 epoch-making testimonies to the Bahá'í Faith which appeared in nearly 200 newspapers of the United States and Canada, and which were subsequently translated and published in Europe, China, Japan, Australia, the Near East and the islands of the seas.
In the first of these testimonies, Queen Marie affirmed that the writings of Bahá'u'lláh and Abdul-Baha are a great cry toward peace, reaching beyond all limits of frontiers, above all dissensions about rights and dogmas. It is a wondrous message that Bahá'u'lláh and his son Abdul-Baha have given us. They have not set it up aggressively, knowing that the germ of eternal truth which lies at its core cannot but take root and spread. It is Christ's message taken up anew, in the same words almost, but adapted to the 1,000 years and more difference that lies between the year 1 and today. If ever the name of Bahá'u'lláh or Abdul-Baha comes to your attention, do not put their writings from you. Search out their books, and let their glorious, peace-bringing, love-creating words and lessons sink into your hearts as they have into mine. Seek them and be the happier. In another of these testimonies, she declared. God is all. Everything. He is the power behind all beings. His is the voice within us that shows us good and evil. But mostly we ignore or misunderstand this voice. Therefore, did he choose his elect to come down amongst us upon earth to make clear his word, his real meaning. Therefore the prophets, therefore Christ, Muhammad, Bahá'u'lláh, for man needs from time to time a voice upon earth to bring God to him, to sharpen the realization of the existence of the true God. Those voices sent to us had to become flesh, so that with our earthly ears we should be able to hear and understand. When Shoghi Effendi wrote to her and thanked her for her testimonies on behalf of the Baha'i community, she responded, "Indeed a great light came to me with the message of Bahá'u'lláh and Abdul-Baha. My youngest daughter finds also great strength and comfort in the teachings of the beloved masters. We pass on the message from mouth to mouth, and all those we give it to see a light suddenly lighting before them, and much that was obscure and perplexing becomes simple, luminous and full of hope as never before. That my open letter was a balm to those suffering for the cause, is indeed a great happiness to me, and I take it as a sign that God accepted my humble tribute. The occasion given me to be able to express myself publicly was also his work, for indeed it was a chain of circumstances of which each link led me unwittingly one step further, till suddenly all was clear before my eyes and I understood why it had been. Thus does he lead us finally to our ultimate destiny. Little by little the veil is lifting, grief tore it in two. And grief was also a step leading me ever nearer truth, therefore do I not cry out against grief." And again in one of her later appreciations of the faith, "The Baha'i teaching brings peace and understanding. It is like a wide embrace gathering all those who have long searched for words of hope. Saddened by the continual strife amongst believers of many confessions and wearied of their intolerance towards each other, I discovered in the Baha'i teaching the real spirit of Christ so often denied and misunderstood. The Baha'i teaching brings peace to the soul and hope to the heart. To those in search of assurance the words of the Father are as a fountain in the desert after long wandering." In a letter to Martha Root, Queen Marie reflected on the appreciations she had written for the newspapers. "The beautiful truth of Bahá'u'lláh is with me always, a help and an inspiration. What I wrote was because my heart overflowed with gratitude for the reflection you brought me. I am happy if you think I helped. I thought it might bring truth nearer because my words are read by so many." In a letter to an American friend living in Paris, Queen Marie wrote, "Lately a great hope has come to me from one Abdul-Baha. I have found in his and his father, Bahá'u'llah's message of faith, all my yearning for real religion satisfied. What I mean, these books have strengthened me beyond belief, and I am now ready to die any day full of hope. But I pray God not to take me away yet, for I still have a lot of work to do." Both Ilana and I were cruelly disappointed at having been prevented going to the holy shrines, but at that time we were going through a cruel crisis, and every movement I made was being turned against me and being politically exploited in an unkind way. It caused me a good deal of suffering and curtailed my liberty most unkindly. But the beauty of truth remains, and I cling to it through all the vicissitudes of a life become rather sad. I am glad to hear that your traveling has been so fruitful, and I wish you continual success knowing what a beautiful message you are carrying from land to land." After this sad disappointment she wrote to a childhood friend of her who resided near Akka, in a house formerly occupied by Bahá'u'lláh. "It was indeed nice to hear from you, and to think that you are of all things living near Haifa and are, as I am, a follower of the Baha'i teachings. It interests me that you are living in that special house. I was so intensely interested and studied each photo intently. It must be a lovely place, and the house you live in, so incredibly attractive and made precious by its associations with the man we all venerate. Her last public tribute to the faith she had dearly loved was made 2 years before her death. More than ever today, when the world is facing such a crisis of bewilderment and unrest, must we stand firm in faith-seeking, that which binds together instead of tearing asunder. To those searching for light, the Bahá'í teachings offer a star which will lead them to deeper understanding, to assurance, peace and goodwill with all men. In July 1938, Queen Marie of Romania passed away. Shoghi Effendi shared these words.
Queen Marie's acknowledgement of the divine message stands as the first fruits of the vision which Bahá'u'lláh had seen long before in his captivity, and had announced in his Kitab Oqdos. How great, he wrote, the blessedness that awaits the king who will arise to aid my cause in my kingdom, who will detach himself from all else but me. All must glorify his name, must reverence his station, and aid him to unlock the cities with the keys of my name, the omnipotent protector of all that inhabit the visible and invisible kingdoms. Such a king is the very eye of mankind, the luminous ornament on the brow of creation, the fountainhead of blessings unto the whole world.